All right, so on this project, I want to show you two things. I want to show you another example of deghosting and actually two ways of doing it. And I also want to show you how you can turn a very sort of blah photo, kind of boring sky, and how HDR really brings out like colors you would not expect to be there. So this is the normal exposure. And the problem is that my wife shot this photo. This is the underexposure, this is the overexposure, and the boat is moving a little bit between the three shots. So that's something we're going to try to create in a deghosting, but I'll show you two ways of doing this. First, let's look at some colors. I think on this one I'm going to go to daylight and just add, no, actually I'm going to add a little bit of warmth to daylight, and maybe I'm going to go to shade. Shade, no, cloudy. Cloudy could be, yeah, cloudy is kind of cool. I'm going to go to cloudy and just add a little bit of magenta. And one thing you can do to sort of cheat a little bit and help the HDR making, more colors, you can see here there is some kind of sunset coming, some warmth there. I want to increase that. So I'm going to take the radial filter and I'm going to go on temp. So everything is going to be at 0 except temp, and I'm going to make a little circle there. I'm going to click invert mask so that whatever is being done here is only going to happen within the mask. And I'm just going to add a little bit of warmth there and put the feathering of the mask at 100, so it's a very subtle gradient. I'm just adding a little bit of warmth. So you can make your circle how you just there. And it's going to appear on all three photos. It's very subtle, but you will see at the end it does do something. Okay, so that, and so I'm fine with the colors now. And I just want to go to the unbound profile correction, remove chromatic aberration, and auto. Okay. And let's see what camera calibration, if I go to a camera landscape. Yeah, camera landscape is already bringing in more colors. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Let's go to sharpening. So let's zoom in at 100%, very sharp photo, but what happens if I go to like 90? Yeah, 90 is good. Maybe a little bit of masking with the Alt key, just a little bit, so that the mask, it's sharp just where we want it. Okay. And one thing I don't like so much is that the water is look at the water. It's like it's a very high frequency texture, and actually the sharpening made it even worse. So I'm going to take a brush, and on this one I'm going to go to clarity. Everything is going to be at 0 except clarity. I'm going to minus out the clarity and minus out the sharpness. And then I'm going to paint over the water. And because I don't like when the water is too sharp. That's something I don't like. I think it hurts the eyes. Let's zoom in and let's see. Oh, sorry, let's take that brush again. And let's see the before and after as we zoom in. Okay, before and after. See how the water is less sharp? It's very subtle, but we know that the HDR is going to increase a lot the sharpening. So if it was very sharpened, I wouldn't like that. Okay, so that's cool. And now I'm going to take all three photos and I'm going to click on sync, synchronize everything. Everything is marked, and we are ready to jump over to export Photomatics Pro. And on this one, we're going to make sure show option to remove ghost is selected, because we are going to do, oh, I forgot something. I forgot the noise reduction. I want to do a little bit of noise reduction on this one, just a little bit. I want to do a little noise reduction, like maybe 10 on the first one. I want to sync that to all three, so make sure check all this is done. So everything is going to be synchronized. And on the underexposed photo, on this one, I'm going to put it down to 30. But see how on their exposed photo, how the sky is already nicer there? And so that's kind of cool. So let's take all three photos, export Photomatics Pro. Okay, show options, remove ghost, export. Okay, I'm going to put on pause until it's open. Here we are in the deghosting part. So remember, on this one, I'm going to go to selective deghosting. It says drag your mouse over the image to a ghosted region. So the ghosted region would be here, because that's where the boats are moving, but also the people are moving. Sorry. So first around the boat. Okay, then right click, mark selection as ghosted area. And then here we have people moving. Here we have people moving. Oh, sorry. Right click, mark as ghosted area. Right click, mark as ghosted area, and here also. Well, this one I don't care because I will erase it later on, so I'm not going to bother with it. So let's preview the deghosting, and it's actually not bad. People are not moving. It's not bad. So return selection mode. So we're ready to do. So it's really simple. You just do a little circle around, right click, and mark selection as ghosted area. And yeah, on this one on a boat, maybe I'm going to use the -2 EV. I like when something is moving. Let's preview this. Yeah, it's just going to make it a bit even sharper. Okay, remember you can just right click and choose what photo you want to use. Usually it's going to be the 0 EV, meaning the normal exposure, or the -2. But on this one, I would go for -2 for better result, because -2 is the shortest shutter speed, and so it's got the best, it's just going to be the best sharp item. Click on OK, and now it's going to do the deghosting effect. It's going to merge with the HDR, and we're going to jump over and check our preset and see how we can make this photo pop. Here we are. Now check it out. Now, see how that photo looks a lot nicer now. Let's go to photo. Let's check my two presets, photo contrast, classic. So classic is detail enhancer, contrast. I like what contrast is doing on this one. So let's jump over to contrast, strands. Let's play around with the strands, play around with the tone compression, lighting effects. So always remember that what's good is to put lighting effects to there and then the midtones at the opposite. That's a good way to make things very intense. Okay, the rest I'm not gonna, maybe a little bit of color saturation just to be a bit more crazy. Okay, so that's the best I can get from Contrast Optimizer. Let's jump over to Detail Enhancer, see what the best I can get there. Natural Plus, yeah, Natural Plus. I think I'm gonna lower the gamma on this one. Color saturation, just add a little bit. Okay, so let's compare. Let's compare Contrast Optimizer, Detail Enhancer. Okay, Contrast Optimizer for me wins. And Contrast Optimizer also will give you a nicer, a more natural result. So I used to use a lot Detail Enhancer and only that. And then I got used to using Contrast Optimizer, and I find it gives a nicer result, in terms of, it's a bit more natural, a bit more organic result. So let's jump over to Lightroom and let's see. The photo is going to get re-imported. It's already re-imported here. Check it out. The boat's moving. And now we got a very sharp boat. And that's the deghosting effect. That's pretty cool. Now on this one, sometimes what I like to do is take the overexposed photo. Oh no, not on this one. Yeah, the second way we could make this, but it really worked really well. See how the boat is very sharp? I like that. And the people also are very sharp. So it's really cool. The other way I could do it would be to use, that's the second way, would be to use a normal exposure and blend this one in Photoshop. But the deghosting did such a good job that I'm not going to do it. However, what I am going to do is I'm going to cut it here so that we have one less person to erase. I'm going to leave the other, the nice Parisian they're walking. I think it's kind of cool. And maybe do a double development. So open up the shadows, bring down the highlights, do the Alt, press on the Alt key. Okay, boost the whites, boost the blacks a lot. Check it out. The blacks makes a big difference. You always go first on the black. Do you see how the blacks all have all these spots, and these spots are completely dark? This means that they're 100% black. So it's important to have blackness in the photo. It's really what's going to give the contrast to it. And on the opposite, on the white, I have a lot less. Okay? But you can increase it even more by adding contrast. And already it's kind of like nicer looking. Maybe let's add even more vibrance. No, let's not go too crazy on this. Otherwise the blue in the sky is going to become weird. I think, or you can add vibrance, but then let's add a bit of yellow to take out this crazy blue. And add a bit of magenta, maybe just a little bit. Okay, so we got nice colors. Now let's see where we came from. We came from that. Let me show you. I'm going to reset it. We came from that, and this is where we are. See how the HDR really boosted up, And I'm not even finished with it. I think I'm gonna do a little bit of post-crop vignetting on this one. I don't know, this one's got it's funny because it's very sharp, so it's got almost like a cartoonish effect to it. But I kind of like it, you know. And we have, you know, object in movement, and it's still working pretty well. Yeah, everything is kind of sharp. It's very sharp, actually. So maybe a bit too sharp. Maybe I'm going to add a bit of minus clarity. Minus clarity will take out some of the sharpness and just make it a bit more organic looking. And voila, maybe boost or lower a little bit the exposure. At this point, sometimes what I like to do is just take a little brush, go to exposure, and you know, just play around and add some dodge. What we call dodging is making some parts of the photo a little bit brighter. So I'm just, you know, painting the water to make it brighter a little bit. If you think it's too much, you can just lower that here. I'm usually doing it like with 75, 75 or 80, 80 on flow and density. That's the power of my brush. Okay. And then sometimes I like to add some radial circle. So I'm going to take a radial circle. I'm going to go to exposure. I'm going to make one here. I'm going to invert the mask, boost the feathering there. And I'm just going to boost a little bit the exposure. It just makes a more interesting light here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to put this one here, duplicate, this one there. And all I'm trying to do is what I call breaking the gradient. You see, an object which is partially laid is going to be more interesting. And so by just adding some of circles of light of this dodging, you're making your photo a bit more interesting. Just slightly, but it's just a bit more. And you can just select each circle and decide how much light is going to go into it. Okay, maybe another one here. This one, a stronger one here. Something like this. It's good to have one in the middle because then you force the eyes of the viewer to go in the middle of your photo, and it's going to give him the impression that your photo's got more depth. So let me show you before the radial circle, after the radial circle. Okay, this might be a little bit obvious, but you can, you know, what you can do is basically put your attention on something else for like 20 minutes, come back to the photo, and if you can tell right away where the radial circles are, it's maybe you went over the top. Or if you show to the person somebody else's photo and say, oh, there was a circle there, or it's more bright here, that's kind of weird, then you know you've done it too much. You can just go and reselect and, you know, lower the exposure here and here. So yeah, I just wanted to salvage this photo for my wife. She actually liked this kind of retouching. And voila, this is again where we came, and this is where we are, thanks to the HDR.